Welcome everybody to the first episode of the NEFIT podcast. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, and I appreciate everybody for joining me on our adventure on the NEFIT podcast. This right here will be my first episode with Freddy Alonso.
Hey guys.
One of my good friends back from South Texas. We grew up pretty much together. He's like my brother. Really appreciate it. Really humble guy that I know of my life. I appreciate him being a part of this with me. He will be my co-host throughout this whole project we got going on, because it's a big project we got with both of us. It's nice that we get to share this with each other and share this with you guys too. Our first episode will be talking about Freddy and his career paths and his lifestyles and all of that good stuff coming from South Texas all the way up to this point in life. Thank you for being here, Freddy. Welcome to the NEFIT podcast, and let's get started with this first episode.
All right. Well, I'm excited, man. Thank you for allowing me to be here and, letting me be part of your journey, your dream about this. I know you've been wanting to do something like this for a long time now, and thank you guys. Thank you, Carol in the back somewhere. Appreciate it. But yeah, we'll start off with me. I'm Freddy Alonso, but for my Valley people, Jose Alfredo Alonso Perez Moreno Jr. II.
Imagine putting that in the Scantron.
Oh, hey man, I had to put Alonso in there. Like, you got a second last name. We're from the Rio Grande Valley, Elsa, Texas, to be precise. Kind of grew up in the Valley. I was born in Mexico, and came over to the United States as 2-3 years old. We'll elaborate more into that because there's a whole story with that. And so from there, I was taught my whole life that, you got to work hard. You got to go to school. You got to get good grades so you can get into college. You got to go to college so you can get a good job. Now, 10 years later, 14. Yeah, 10 years later, it's kind of like...
You're gonna put our age out there, bro.
5 years later, 10 years later, kind of realizing that I didn't get to finish. I didn't get to finish college, and I don't have my Aggie ring, and it's not stopping me from anything. I am currently a director of a real estate commercial management company in Bryan College Station. Very well known here. We got different regions in Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth now, and here in Bryan College Station, our corporate office. So just because you didn't go to school, there's still a lot of opportunity out there. You just got to go grab it and got to take it by the horns. But so Neff and I, we went to school together. We knew each other from junior high. And then from there, we got closer when we got to high school, Pitbull's class.
Pitbull's class.
Yeah. So
before that, I think freshman year we had Mr. Gomez.
Yeah, Gomez in math class. Mr. Gomez, shout out.
Shout out, Mr. Gomez. He was an awesome teacher.
Good guy.
Good guy. Very funny. Amazing teacher. Teacher.
Dolphin.
We had Dolphin. Mr. Garza, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Garza.
We'll cut the Dolphin up. No, but so from there, it just kind of, sometimes who your friends are going to be long term, and who are those friends that are only there for a period of your life. And Neff, it's funny because we all started off in that chemistry class with Mr. Pitbull, and I would get so much backlash because I wanted to be the best and I wanted to get that A, and he would literally give me C's because he wanted to teach me the hard way that life is not perfect. I appreciate him for it now, but back then I was like, man, if I do the work and I'm doing it right, why are you forcing me to get a C?
Right, he's just being a butthole with you.
Yeah. No, but so that's a little bit of my story and kind of like digging into it. So since I was born in Mexico, I'm a DACA recipient, meaning that I have temporary residency in the United States. So I have to renew every 2 years. Every 2 years, it's another $700. And there's no path for me to become a U.S. citizen. But I'm here, pay taxes, got to do what I got to do. And
well, it's hard. It sucks in your shoes because it's one of those where it's like you still got to do all this and abide, be a good citizen and do all that good stuff. and it's harder for you to receive a whole bunch of these helps and grants and all these good stuff from high school to college to maybe even finding a job now. It's kind of hard because it's one of those where it's like, that's one thing that sometimes it's on the hiring form. It's like, oh, what's your status and stuff now, U.S. citizen and stuff like that. And it's hard for people to, I guess, put their stuff out there because, I mean, it's one of those where it shouldn't be something you should be ashamed about, but the culture and all that around here, it's one of those where it kind of makes it kind of seem like it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's very hard like that. Together, were you involved in any school stuff?
So I grew up not rough, like how people would say, like there's what do you call it, like the median, and then there's lower than that. Well, then there's a lower than that. Like I grew up in Section 8 housing. I didn't know it was bad because to me it was life. Like
for us down there, it's kind of normal.
Yeah, I didn't know what a dishwasher was. I didn't know. I thought it was a person that cleans dishes.
Honestly, I didn't find out dishwasher till I moved up here with you too. So
I didn't know what it was, and you guys think I'm crazy, but I didn't know what that was.
In my opinion, I feel like they kind of suck, but
you gotta put that elbow grease in, right? That's because I use dishwashers now. Oh, but I didn't know what that was, and I grew up with very good parents that loved me, sisters, and kind of just speaking more about that. It's like, I never knew it was bad. I just wanted to get out, wanted to do my own thing. I always felt like I was meant for more. I always felt like I needed to be a better version of myself. And so, those quotes people say, like, I forgot what it's called, but it's like, there's always one person in the family that ends up changing the trajectory of that family's name.
Or the family past.
The family past. I wanted to be that person.
That's awesome.
First generation coming to the U.S. I don't think I'm considered first gen because I wasn't born here, but I still consider myself a first generation because my parents came here. They sacrificed a lot in their early 20s to be able to give my sisters and I a better life.
And to give people context, I've known Freddy since elementary school, but we didn't have the same elementary school. We went to different elementaries and we met together in junior high because where we're from, you got to meet. Everybody eventually meets up from elementaries into junior high, and then you pretty much just travel with them all the way to high school. And then sometimes you travel with them to college, depending on who travels with you or who stays behind and where people go, because that's where everybody starts changing their paths and they start realizing and start thinking a little bit more ahead, I feel like it. But yeah.
Our hometowns, it's like two cities in one. It's Elsa and Edcouch. So we say Edcouch.
Time out. Because at our year, we also had Monte Alto, which was another town.
Before they had the high school.
And then some people from La Villa as well would join our school. But like you said, it's not that big, but we did have a good community around us, I believe.
So from our, let's say 2-3 towns combined into one, Edcouch, Elsa, La high school that soon became 2 high schools, one for the freshmen and sophomores, one for the juniors and seniors. I mean, I don't know why we needed 2 buildings, but I guess. And
well, if you really put in perspective, we had like 1, 2, 3,
the CT,
4 buildings, and then we have vocationals across.
Yep. And we're very lucky to be where we're at. I feel like a lot of people saw something in me, and I know there's people that saw something in you and they kind of guided us to be better.
Oh, definitely.
So like we had teachers, I consider them mentors now. Back then they were just really good people, but definitely. I never knew why they wanted to instill more in me because I didn't know I could go to college. I wasn't illegal. And then I applied for the DACA back when I was 17. Going on 18. And I didn't get it until the summer before I became a freshman in college.
Wow.
Yeah, so I didn't even know I was going to.
Since you were 17, you've been trying to get it, and then you didn't get it until.
Well, I got it when I was. So it came back in, like, I can't remember when DACA first came out, but when I first applied for it, I was 17. So I got it before I turned 18.
Gotcha. And then every 2 years,
and every 2 years, it's a renewal. And
You find it easier or harder now with renewals?
it's easier to renew now. It just sucks spending $700 every single time. I'd rather spend all that money on becoming a citizen.
And for those of you that don't know, just because you're a DACA recipient, that doesn't mean anything. You still got to pay your taxes. You still got to pay your worth out here.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that people have misconceptions. It's like, oh, well, you're getting help because you're this. No, that's not necessarily the case. It's one of those where it's like, chances are you're going to get the shittier end of the stick at the end of the day.
Yeah, because either way, like, people are like, oh, you're taking advantage of the system. And I'm like, no, I want to be a part of the system. Like, if there's a way.
But it's a great opportunity for people that need it. And for the people that are using it to its potential, it's a great opportunity.
And, but no, so really, really helpful that I have that, because before I was so afraid to even drive a car because I was driving without a license. I got my first car going into my freshman year. Had a little red Dodge Neon, a big Transformers logo on it. Oh, yeah. I had a purple neon lights. I had a 12-inch subs in the back. I thought I was so cool. And it was an ugly, beat-up car. Yeah.
In the parking lots.
Because I was like, man, other freshmen don't have a car. I have a car. And, you know, being in band, I don't know if you guys can tell, I'm a little sunburned from it. But that was 10 years ago. 10 years. 4 years of marching.
I'm not going to lie. When you guys came back from band camp, oh, man, you guys were...
If you wore shades, you got the raccoon eyes, man.
Y'all were burnt. I feel sorry for you guys. That you have the different colored legs with your socks.
But kind of like the way we grew up, we were always instilled to work hard, work hard, work hard. And that's what I kept doing because I thought that was my way out of what I see now, not as poverty, but, you know, poor is just a mentality. You got to change your mentality and go after what you really want, because if you really want something more, you just have to strive and figure it out. There was nobody there to basically really guide me, do this, do that, do that. After, you know, I left from high school, I kind of had to make my own decisions, be my own man, be my own person. And I'm kind of happy of that because it kind of forced me to get uncomfortable, to get comfortable. And, you know, I had to learn a lot about myself. What were my strengths? What were my weaknesses? And one thing that I found out was, for some reason, which I know you do because you cut hair, but we're just really good with talking to people. Oh, yeah. Like, so I think this is a good way for us to talk to people and then bring those values out in them to y'all.
Exactly. It's funny because since he is my co-host, you will be hearing our voices change throughout the whole podcast depending on who we're interviewing. Yeah. Like he says, I'm a barber, so I adapt to the environment and my language. I've been doing it for 12 years. It honestly adapts to who's sitting in my chair. So if I have someone from the Valley, sometimes I'll go more into Tex-Mex with people. People don't know what Tex-Mex means. It's a English-Spanish mix. And it's one of those where we have our own slang, being from South Texas, the 956. And it's funny because I'm just putting it out there so you guys, when you guys see more of my shows, the people who actually know me, they'll be like, that does not sound like him, but it changes. It changes with who we're talking. My Spanish will also change. It'll go a little quicker, a little slower, depending on who's sitting in my chair and what Hispanic I'm talking to be honest. But just putting it out there for now and for later, if you hear our voices change,
it's pretty fun.
Just know that we deal with a lot of people that we had to adapt to that, to be honest.
And talking about like adapting, like, when I was a little kid, some of the times like I had to be the parent because my parents needed me for translation. So when my parents were trying to apply for like food stamps, or when they were trying to apply for housing, Section 8, trying to go through all that, I had to be the one to translate. So as a little kid, they forced me to, it sounds bad, but I was kind of forced into those tough situations. And I'm kind of happy for it now because now, you know, being older, if I ever have to do something like that that's uncomfortable, it's normal to me. Like I did that when I was 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, trying to tell my parents what a security deposit was, or that they had to put a down payment, or
what a down payment is.
Yeah, what a down payment was.
What it does.
Or credit.
Like, or credit.
I didn't even know credit existed. So when I came to college and I was able to get a credit card after being a DACA recipient, because you get temporary residency, which you get a Social Security, I thought it was free money. So I saw $1,000. I was like, let's go. Let's go. Bought a phone. I think I bought a MacBook somehow.
You didn't buy an Evo like the back in the days?
No. I don't even know if the people know what an Evo is.
Oh, you're right. Different generation.
But different generation. But no, one of the best things is I love being able to share the stories that we have from being back in the Valley, because the world was like this for us. Now being away, it's
expanded.
It's crazy. The people you meet, the environment that you're in. And what I love about College Station is, even though it's very white, sorry, but like it is, everybody's so nice. It's that nice Southern hospitality. Anywhere I go, my wife, my daughter, everybody's super nice. Oh my God, your daughter's so beautiful, and they start asking you questions. And it's in the Valley, everybody feels like they're out to get you, or like we've dealt with this where there's people that try to help us. Why? Like, we're not asking for your help. What do you need? Like, my guard was always so up, because I was used to, in the Valley, if somebody's trying to help you, they're trying to screw you. Like, they want something from you, but they're playing nice to get what they want. So coming here, when people were nice to me, I'm like, what do you mean, what do I want to eat? I just want to order. It
is crazy, because I could use this reference as I had a couple cousins come down, and they're from the Valley and they drive a little quick, so they ended up cutting off somebody, and the person told them sorry instead of them telling them sorry, and they were like, man, this place is super nice. Like, I feel bad cutting people off, and I'm like, you should, because you shouldn't. But yeah, it's one of those.
No, and then
it's a different environment.
Yeah, a lot of people that know me know that I have a great positive attitude.
Oh, definitely.
I'm always nice. It's always
energetic.
Good,
yes, always energetic, always ready to go.
Yeah. But sometimes I need my time to recharge. My wife's a big introvert, and I think part of her is not part of me. So sometimes when I need to get away or to relax, I just need to be away from everything. Being 20, I forgot how old I am, 28 years old. Yeah, 28.
28. And I mean, I totally get the stress relief, because going back to your profession, like, you do deal with a lot of people, you deal with a lot of business owners, you deal with a lot of wealthy people, you deal with a lot of in-between people, like, you just deal with everything across the board. Yeah. So do you have any examples or any tastes, like, about work? Like, what are some of the stress levels to expect, like, if you're managing stuff like that?
So a little bit about my story. I'm going to go a little bit back, and then I'll kind of dive into it. So going back to college, I was going to try and be an engineer. I wanted to be an engineer. I love breaking stuff apart, putting it back together, or trying to make it better. That's kind of the way I've always been. And I really wanted to be an engineer. So I missed out on an opportunity to go to MIT and Brown. So reason I was afraid to leave and get deported. And I didn't take those opportunities. I just had an interview for MIT. I had to do 10 mini essays. The interview was with somebody in that Valley that actually went to MIT and interviewed me. He's a pastor at a church, I think, in San Juan. But so next opportunity was to stay in Texas, and A&M is the school that offered me the most money. Like, I was getting paid to come to school. Like, I didn't have to work. Like, my school was paid for, everything. Like, living situation. My parents didn't have to come out of pocket. It was just scholarships that I got. That's why I love A&M, because they help out so many people. First generation students, they have the Region Scholars Organization. And if you're a first generation student and your parents make under a certain amount, they pay. They give you a scholarship. And so I was kind of going to school, really wanted to do that, but I applied kind of late. So the engineering program was already maxed out. So I went into math.
And that was before the engineering program is where it's at now, right?
Yeah, it was still up there, but it wasn't
nowhere close to now.
I think it was still high, but not now. It's
well, they were always known for engineering, but as far as like the numbers of engineering, like as far as I believe now they're like at almost 20,000 engineers, probably more. That's crazy.
But so with that, it was I keep saying And so with that, it was kind of like I really wanted to go into that. I found a program called ID, Industrial Distribution, and I really like business. I like the way business works, and they told me, hey, it's a mix of business and engineering. It's the business side of engineering. So like all the industries that have manufacturing plants and how things are made, you'll be managing kind of the logistics of it. And I'm like, ooh, this sounds, I kind of like it. Like how it works.
Guy.
Yeah.
Numbers guy.
And so I went ahead and went for that. And my junior year that I started, something happened, and I asked one of the financial aid counselors to help me out because there was some information I was missing, so they could give me because I don't think I got the FAFSA. I wasn't able to get FAFSA. I got TASFA, which was the Texas one. And in order for all my scholarships to hit, I had holds on my account. And one of the holds was like paperwork, submitting. There's a deadline of October 15th or something. I didn't know that. So I asked the financial aid officer to help me. He ended up giving me all this paperwork that my parents had to sign. I didn't do this my freshman or sophomore year. So then he told me the regulations change. It's because you're DACA. And I was like, okay. So he got an emergency tuition loan out for me. I couldn't even get loans at that time because DACA was so new that they weren't even handing out loans. None of that. Like that didn't exist. So I don't know how he did it. And so the spring semester hits and I get all the paperwork done because I had to go everywhere. Oh, sorry, I was supposed to give you this. And it was always something different. And then when school started the very first week, I couldn't sign up for classes because of that hold. And I told the financial aid officer, hey, like, I can't sign up for classes. What do I do? Like, can I talk to my counselor for the program? And he said, I could no longer help you. You're no longer a student of this university.
Wow.
And kicked me out.
From one day to the next.
Like that same day, the same guy that helped me is the same guy that kicked me out.
Wow.
And this happened to a lot of people. Some got back in. I kind of went into a state of depression. Like,
no, definitely. That's a lot of money, man. It's a lot of money pulled out, especially on an emergency loan. So that money gets automatically taken out, already given to you, already paid to your classes, and now you're stuck paying all that back.
It was already accruing interest from the day he got it out. It was accruing interest from August or September of when my junior year started. So when I was no longer a student, I had to pay that. I didn't have the money, and they didn't allow me to do payments. It was all or nothing.
And you're still learning about credit.
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
man.
I was like, I don't know what this is. And it took me 9 years to pay that.
9 years.
In full.
So if you guys
Are thinking of getting an emergency loan for college, it's there, but keep in mind, it's a tricky situation.
In my situation, it was different because I didn't, at that time, the emergency tuition loan was about $5,000, and then I still owed the school some money, but I was waiting for my scholarships to come in so it would clear it out. None of that happened. I lost the opportunity. I had good friends. I was one of those crazy guys that sold books door to door in the summer as a freshman. So I had made some like network opportunities with people, and but with the emergency tuition loan, the reason I wasn't able to pay it is because my family didn't have $5,000 to be able to give, and I didn't make money where I could be like, here's $5,000 or I'm gonna pay it in payments. I know $5,000 to some people sounds like nothing, but when you're a broke college student that you're basically come from poverty and you never buy new cars, or
You're first generation college student as well.
Yeah.
So you're barely learning the path for the future.
Yeah,
the future Alonsos.
And so I was kind of in that mode. What do you do? Like, instead of going and reaching out for help, reaching out to people that had helped me get into college, I was so embarrassed because that shouldn't happen to me. I've been a good student. I did everything people told me to do. And
You've worked hard.
Yeah, I worked hard.
You've listened to the people you're supposed to listen to.
Yeah. I went to the financial aid office.
You got guidance from the people you're supposed to get guidance from.
So then I was like, well, who else is out to screw me? Because I got so accustomed to people being nice here that I didn't think people were like that. And I couldn't reach out to anybody. I was embarrassed. I was like, this shouldn't happen to me. Like, I did everything people told me to do. And still, and that $5,000 after interest from all these years, it went up to $15,000.
$15,000.
And they would not let me pay in payments. It was all or nothing. $15,000. All or nothing.
And what did you do?
Paid.
You paid it off.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Like either last year or like a year and a half. So all. And it was a big weight off my shoulders. But now I'm scared to go back into school because of the position I'm in. I'm like, do I really need to go back? But I really want that Aggie ring.
Well, if you really think about it, you need how many hours?
2 or 3 classes.
2 or 3 classes.
Just to hit my 90 hours to get my Aggie ring. So
it's possible.
Yeah, no, it's possible.
It's very possible.
And so, $15,000, man, and you're going to school. That happens to you. You have to kickstart working because you have to pay $5,000 at that time, which accumulated to $15,000. So, what was your mindset like? What was you thinking? Like, what's next? Do I have to find people to help me out?
Rewinding, I know you're asking me about my career and the stress levels. So that's kind of when I called my parents and I told them what happened. And they said, mijo, my mom, she's like, mijo, like, you're an adult now. Like, you got to figure it out. We don't have $5,000 to give you. Like, it's on you. And I was like, whoa, never heard that from my parents before. I always did things on my own, but now it was where my parents were like, you moved out, you did the decision to go to college, we told you to stay, like, you did this, so you go figure it out. And I felt like nobody had my back. So that's when life hit me. And I used to weigh like 170, 160 back then.
No, I remember you were a little stick. We'll throw some pictures, definitely.
And then from that time frame, I went up to, I gained 30 pounds, 40. When people say, oh, they got like freshman 15, shit, man, I got like freshman 30. But at that time, I was already a junior. So I gained I was a freshman to a junior, I probably gained 50 pounds.
50 pounds.
All out of depression.
Stress,
depression, going into the party scene because I wasn't going to school.
And I appreciate Freddy being upfront about this because not a lot of people in college want to talk about these type of feelings, these type of events, these type of situations because they feel like they failed, but in reality, it's not you. It's the steps that pretty much don't add up to where you need to be, and it's not your fault. It's something you completely had no control over, and it fell in your hands. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I appreciate Freddy being upfront about his emotions and the way he feels because I feel like a lot of college students don't really relate that to their family members or their friends or their roommates because I feel like roommates. That's a big brotherhood that you have when you get roommates and stuff like that, because those are the times you need to share, or those are people you should share with because they should be there to help you out, which if they're not there for that, then chances are you have some bad roommates. And I appreciate Freddie telling me this because that's a big situation in college that I've heard. Like, these are emotions that not a lot of people share. And I'm sure it comes up that it's a lot of suicidal thoughts and there's a lot of emotions that go through that. And I feel like a lot of college students are scared to say it, but I'm sure there's a lot more out there that are thinking the same just because how the pressure, the stress, not just being here, also probably even having their families weight on their shoulders as far as like, oh, I need to do this better for them, for them when they're not putting themselves first. You get me?
So I've always had that pressure of I gotta be the one to take care of my family. Like my wife and I, we bought our first home, not for us, for my parents. Because my parents always wanted a home. We always wanted to grow up. And instead of moving around from Section 8 or just within where we lived, I never got to say, oh, I grew up there. But my little sister, Destiny, we are, I think, 16 years apart. She could say that. That's awesome. That's where I grew up. Like, that's my family home. So my parents always wanted that. So our first home we bought was for my parents, and it's back in the valley. And, a lot of people don't do that. Parents help you.
Especially given the story you just gave us, a lot of people where we're from, they hold a lot of grudges, especially towards family. And for family to tell you like, hey, you're on your own when you're trying to get out of a debt, and then from you to go and buying them a house and helping them out, that's awesome, man. I commend you for that.
Appreciate it, man. And I mean, it took a lot of changing, growing up. I'm very fortunate for some of the people that, you know, I was able to talk to. I was able to meet here in Bryan College Station, you know, the Aggie Land, the Aggie Network, because they got me kind of out of that scum, or I don't know what to call it, just that time.
That feel.
Yeah. So talking about roommates, Luis, he came to A&M with me. He graduated early. He, I think, went into construction science. I think he was going like architect, construction science route. And he said, "Hey, man, like I know you're not really doing anything, and you know you got to cover your share of rent." And I was like, "Yeah, I do." He's like, "If you need a job, come work with me at Sabisa." Sabisa is one of the largest dining halls, I think, in the U.S. for like collegiate, like universities, right? So I was like, dang, what am I going to be doing?
So it was like a cafeteria for colleges.
Yeah, it was a buffet.
A golden crowd for the school. A golden crowd for
and,
the
school. I used to go there all the time.
You said Sabisa?
Yeah, Sabisa. And I was one of the guys that would swipe everybody in because we had like our A&M cards, which you had like Aggie Bucks, or you can actually pay in cash. But if like there's a dining plan. Mm-hmm. So just one swipe. I kept swiping people in. And then me and Luis, we were such a good team because we were so comfortable with one another that I was like, okay, man, you got me. Okay, I got you. Or, hey, let's help out everybody, because they wouldn't let us leave until the tables, everything was clean. So when we saw it dying down, he would go clean the tables and I'd be swiping. And like, because people were still coming in to eat. So then, boom, we would switch out. Okay, instead of having us two, sometimes you don't need two people up front.
And do they tip y'all too, or no, not really?
Yeah. So there was times where I'd be like looking at people's work, and I feel like Matt Damon in one of those movies, like, oh, did you have this professor? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, is that Cal 1, this, and that? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, oh, this is the answer. Like, I felt all smart, but I had seen the exact same thing like a year before or 2 years before. And
memorized it.
I was like, this is easy. But so thanks, man. Thanks for helping me out and kind of giving me that opportunity. And from there, Pedro Vega, he was the person that kind of recruited me on to selling books. I had 3 opportunities to go work for NOV, National Oil of Arco, and Johnstone or Johnson. Because they said it'll really test you. You're going to get to know yourself. And if you want to see what you're made of, then put the work in. And I was like, oh, yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
I can fight.
Yeah.
I can fight.
So, but I think everything happens for a reason, because Pedro of the company and the CFO, right? So it was like high level people. So phone call goes great because I'm just being me, like being honest, being real. Like I told him about the book selling and me working at the Edinburgh racetrack and having to deal with people that you kind of got to tell them things even if you don't want to tell them. Like So like when I sold books, I got to see families that couldn't pay for the books, but they would sign up like that they were going to buy from me. But when their kids would leave, I would ask them, if you can't pay for it, I don't want you on my list, because now I'm stuck with a book that's going to come out of my pocket if you can't pay. And then they respected that because I was 19, 20 years old at that time. So then that's when they were honest with me, like, hey, yeah, just take me off. Like, I'll talk to my kid about it. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And so phone call goes great. They bring me in. That goes great. Now it's with the owner of the company. This is for Twin City Properties here in Bryan College Station. Never had seen the tallest guy in my life, right?
Oh, trust me, I've seen him.
And he gives hugs. Like, so now he's a big hugger. I'm a big hugger. It's because of Doug. And
He's an amazing man. Amazing.
Yeah, great guy. Great mentor. Showed me a lot. I thank him a lot because he wasn't a boss. He was a true leader. If he asked you to do something, it's because he has done it. I've never seen an owner of a company at a property bend down and pick up trash. He's 7 feet tall. And the workers, they were there picking up trash. He could have just said, hey, come pick it up. He was literally grabbing, picking it up. And he asked, you know why I do that? And I was like, why? And he's like, because this is my property. I own it. So if I don't maintain it well, how am I going to expect my tenants, the people that work for me, my workers, to treat it like that if I'm not treating it like that? And I was like, whoa. Yeah, I was like, and this is after. So I got the job. I got the job.
So you work for Twin Cities.
Yeah, but they called me when I was working at Savisa. And after that, on the interview, they said, hey, unfortunately. And I was like, I didn't get it. Because they told me it was between someone else and me.
And to be honest, with all the bad news you've already gotten, you were just like, whatever.
I was just like, one bad news after another. Why not? You know what I mean? Everything comes in three. It's the third bad news in a row, right? So, and I start going, thank you for the opportunity. Like, I love, meeting you, like talking to Christy at that time, who was a COO. And I was saying, thank you for the opportunity. You're the first people that actually was able to interview, because I had applied to other places. And she's like, whoa, Freddy, stop. And I'm like, sorry, what? And then she was like, we want to give you a job. I'm like, what? A property manager? I don't even know what that is. You manage property? Great. And then she's like, not the property manager. And I was like, oh, okay.
Time out.
She's like, no. She's like, we really think you would be a great asset. The owner and his wife love you. We love you. We're going to create a job for you. And I was like, okay, cool. What is it? And then you're going to be a floater. A floater?
What is that?
Yeah, a floater. I Google it. I don't even ask them. I don't even ask them. I don't know what a floater is.
What did Google tell you?
And Google said a floater is like tape and float. like painting walls.
A tape and float?
Yes. And I was like, they're so
I'm gonna be sheetrocking walls?
I was like, they're racist because I'm Mexican. They're tape and float.
Oh, man.
So then she's like, I'm going to give you a call to kind of go over a few things. We just wanted to come and tell you the great news. So I'm like, thanks. Yeah, great. And then they call me, when can I come into work? Do I have to put my notice in? And I was like, hey, I don't really know how to do tape and float. They're like, what are you talking about? And they said, well, you said you're going to be a floater. And she's like, yeah, like you're going to float around the office. You're going to get to learn like what it is to be a leasing assistant, a property manager.
A little bit of everything in the office.
Accounting, maintenance. Dude, I was out with the maintenance guys. I helped scan some checks in. I helped the leasing agents, come up with the paperwork. I went out on property with the managers on how to show property. Doug would take me and basically, this is the type of property you need to buy. This is what to look out for. I was up as a receptionist and realized that your voice on the phone changes everything. Hello, this is Freddy. You can already tell. Like, I don't want to talk to this guy.
The demeanor.
Yes. So it was all about, I learned so much from that company, so much. And I miss it to this day. I miss it to this day.
I rent from Twin Cities, so you're in the area. Doug, shout out to Doug. Twin Cities, good property.
Yeah.
Tell him Neff sent you. Tell him Neff sent you.
And so I learned so much from him, and it kind of.
Hey, you never know. Doug has so many properties. He might call you back one day and be like, "Hey, let's get this proposition going here."
Yeah.
No, he's amazing. He's a good mentor. I remember we used to go get classes with Doug, right? Remember?
Yeah, we started that.
He invited us out to eat one time too. Amazing guy. Big Corvette owner.
Oh, there's a lot of cars.
He's amazing. Shoot, we need to get him out here talking to us one day.
Yeah. And well, the reason I left was because Doug told me that they were going to sell the properties I managed, and I forgot how old I was. Maybe at that time I was probably, because I had been working with him for I think almost 3 years, so I was probably 23 at that time, somewhere there. And he's like, wherever you go, I'll back you up. Whatever you want to do, I am here for you. If I need to call people because you want to go into a different industry, I'll call them. I know a lot of people. Where do you get that? Like, who says that? Like,
where we're from, if they're going to close, they hang you out to dry.
Yeah. Like in the Valley, if they're going to sell the properties, they don't even tell you, hey, we sold the properties, you're out.
No, they
like,
just cut you.
For him to be able to do that, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go find something else. And Oldham Goodwin popped up. And that's where I'm working at now. Had a lot of great opportunities there. Met a whole bunch of people because of it. I feel like it made me feel more part of the community, because now we go places and I'm like,
you're recognized.
Yeah.
You're recognized.
By important people too, which kind of makes you feel like, oh, I'm kind of important. And I applied there. They interviewed me, and I told Doug, hey, I found a job. And he's like, I just told you about it. Like, you're leaving me already? And I'm like, you said. And he's like, okay, if that's what you want to do, are you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, no, but you said I gotta go, or I'm gonna be a leasing assistant again, and I want to go up. I don't want to go down. Later on, I found out it was a test, but I don't want to talk about that. Yeah.
Story aside.
Yeah, story aside. And so I went to Oldham Goodwin Group, applied as a property manager, and the story just kind of went on from there. Property manager, regional manager, now the director of commercial.
Okay, well, funny story, because I have a story with Freddy when I moved out here. I believe, did I move out here? I think I was just staying in Dago's room for a couple months.
Oh, well, roommates, yeah.
But remember when you were on call as a manager with Twin Cities, and it was 3 a.m. Yeah. And you're like, bro, you want to go with me? Because it's a sketchy side of town, and there's a water leak in some apartments. And, oh, man, I was like, sure. So we took off at 3 a.m. We were waiting for like an hour till the plumbers got there, and then they started doing their works. And then now managing properties is kind of the same, or how was that?
Yeah. So I was managing residential properties. Now I started in Oldham Goodwin on the commercial side, managing commercial real estate centers from industrial buildings to office to retail. So what I didn't know was like HEB rents their spot. They don't own all of it. They own some of them. I thought they owned everything. Or like your business here. I thought people owned this. No, people rent. Like, that was in my mind. I was like, whoa, like I didn't know that. So like some of these big companies, Hobby Lobby, Academy, Ross, Petco, they don't own the spots they're in most of the time. They rent it. And I'm like, so who owns the building? Because I'm like, they must be rich. Or like, what are they doing? And they're behind the scenes. Nobody knows about them, which is great, because they're making millions, and it's all part of an entity, LLC, things like that, sole proprietorships, business names that their name never comes out. But I felt so
Blinded?
I was like, what the heck? I didn't even know. Like, is this a thing? Like, and because Doug owned all his properties, so I was managing for the owner. When I went to Oldham Goodwin, they own 1 or 2 properties, and the other 60, 70 properties are owned by different people. And I was like, how does this work? So then I got to meet some of those people. And shout out to Bob. Bob, if you ever see this, thank you, man. He was so hard on me. Military guy.
Cool stories.
Yeah.
Bob,
Military guy. He would grade me. He called me one time on a Saturday. And this is what I mean about stress. Like you are in charge of these multi-million-dollar properties. If something goes wrong, you're the guy they call.
And when they want an answer, they want an answer.
And you fixed it now. If they see something, why did I see it before you did? You're not doing your job. You should have saw this before I did. I'm like, I did. So that's the reason Bob and I, like, I guess he started trusting me more because I was young and he didn't think I knew anything. And he would call me. And when he would call me, I already knew, like, Bob, I'm already sending somebody out. Like, there's no need to worry. He's like, well, God damn it, Freddy. And he's like, hell yeah. And then, but before he would start grading me, he's like, Freddy, you can be really good sometimes, but you really messed up here. And you went from an A+ to a C-.
Oh.
So when he started grading me like that, I went back to high school. I'm like, I've always been a good student. I need to get an A, you know? So I was,
home back in.
yeah, I was like, what do I got to do?
What do I have to do?
And every time I'm thrown into like adversity or when times get hard, I don't buckle down anymore, man. Like from all the stuff that I shared, I realized that you got to hit it hard, because when something like that is happening, there's a great opportunity that's waiting for you. And if you don't take that, you're going to be in this dark, shadowy cloud that you're never going to get out of. And that's where I was for so long. And dude, when you lived with us, because it was me, Joe Michael, Darren, and Dago. So we were all roommates. And one of them, watching you guys, left within the first semester. And we're like, how are we going to pay rent? Like we can't pay rent. We need somebody to come live with us. I told Neff one time when I went back home cutting hair, he's like, I'll go. And I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, let me look into it. Let me look into some shops and I'll think about it. So for a whole month or 2 months, you were just like, you were calling me about shops. I'm like, dude, how do you know it?
Yeah, doing research.
Doing your research. And then I was like, hey, well, where I get my haircuts is Whitney's. Maybe you should check it out and do things there. You checked it out. And then we went to Twin Liquors and saw her there.
Oh, yeah. Buying wine. Sounds like Whitney. Sounds like Whitney. Shout out to Whitney.
Yeah, and you guys like hit it off from there. And I guess like you came, right?
Moved out here on summer.
Yeah, moved out, and then
the roommates to pay rent because you guys needed rent. I remember, and then that next year, so our other roommate moved out too. No, Darren. After that, so then we were looking for somebody else, but we ended up just staying us three.
Yeah, us three. Because Luis lived with us for one time, but I think he only lived with us for December because he was graduating early, and Luis was living out of like had a big closet, and that's where his bed was. So I was like, man, all right, and he didn't care. He's like, I'm gonna do what I got to do.
And to be honest, in college, sometimes you just have to have that mentality. You just have to get through it. So you got to do what you got to do.
Do what you got to do. You know, helped us with rent. He didn't have to pay everything, but man, it was great having friends and people that had your back. So. What's it called?
For those of you that don't know, once you start renting, if you get from apartments into houses, it starts getting more expensive because then you have to start adding utilities.
And we had a house, not an apartment,
and everything else. So that's why the rent was kind of high. But because you have a house, you have internet, you have light bills, you have water bills, you have everything that has to do with the house.
Yeah, cable, internet, lawn care. Good thing it was provided by Doug and his team at Twin City.
Shout out.
But we still had to pay for the light. Still had to pay for the water. You know, from time to time, if things broke because of somebody's dog, you know, we had to take care of it, Joe. But, you know, working now, being stressed out all the time, I don't regret it. I don't ever regret it because I wanted that. You know what I mean? I wanted to be in that position. I wanted to take on those responsibilities. If people call, I answer. Like, I wanted to be the person people go to. And
I feel like you're a great problem solver.
Dude, I had to be.
I feel like you're a great problem solver, and seeing where you had to deal with customers and clients and book selling. So you have to learn that as you go.
Yeah. So I feel like when people are like, oh, if you're going to get into something, get into sales. I sold books, man. Like books. Like, how do you sell a book door to door? People are like, I can just buy this on Amazon. I'm like, no, you can't. But it's not sold there. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. But the funny thing is that's not how you sell people. This is what people don't realize. The way you sell people is by asking questions. So kind of like when they say, hey, sell me this pen, right? When people say, sell me this pen, you don't sell the pen. You don't say, this pen is outstanding. It's one of a kind. It's for you. No, people don't want to be sold to. You know what I mean? So you start asking like, hey, have you been in the market for pens? No. Oh, okay. Well, now you're not wasting their time. And they're not wasting your time. But if somebody's like, yeah, I actually have. Well, what type of pen are you looking for? But it goes into anything, like the books. Hey, I'm actually here. I sell books from the little guys all the way up to the big guys. And I can see you have a big guy over there, SATs coming up, ACTs. And then they're like, yeah. And what are you selling? And I was like, well, it kind of depends, what. And instead of me telling them about how great the products were, I was like, well, your kids, what grade are they in? Just kind of started asking those open-ended questions.
What could they use better?
Yeah. So going back to the pen, kind of in easier terms, it's like, yeah, I'm in the market for pens. Okay, well, what type of pens were you looking for? Oh, this, I don't know, black pen. Ballpoint, gel, what? Well, I really like ballpoint, but everybody's going to gel. So I feel like that's the new and exciting thing. Kind of it's your preference. Would you want to pay more for that, or kind of stay where you're comfortable at, what you could get, and if you ever wanted to upgrade, the opportunity's there. Yeah. So then I'd be like, well, check this out. Boom. This is what I have. Now you talk about the product, and then you talk about, how great it is for other people and how it could be great for that person. And then you close. You kind of go from there. But I had to earn people's trust. So they would always say, like, when somebody was being very difficult, there's times where people just kick you out and say no.
Oh, definitely.
Great. But that would really boost, like, my ego down. Like, it was very humbling because sometimes I thought I was good and I wasn't. It's just life. It's life. You never know when life's going to hit. You got to accept it and move on.
And that's the thing with life. It hits everybody at different times. You just don't know. And it might hit you twice.
Yeah. Shit is going to happen. Oh. Cry and it's not my fault. It's everybody's fault. Or you can freaking own up to it and be like, okay, stuff is happening. What can I do to make it better? And that's my job. Every single day we have problems. It's negative stuff. It's always bad.
On an average, as a property manager, how many emails you get a day?
So I think I'm different now, right? Now being
true.
now in the role I'm in, it's funny because people are like, 20 emails. I got so much. From one day to the next, I get anywhere from minimum 100 to 200 emails a day. Yeah, because I get copied in everybody's emails. So
it's not only your work. No, it's everybody's.
It's everybody's. Work. Yeah. So I'm in Houston. And what I see in different companies or different people, those that aren't willing to change are the reason the company hasn't gone as far as it could go, because they're complacent. They're like, well, it's going great now. Let's just keep it the way it is. We can do better.
We can do better. And I mean, that's everybody's lifestyle. Everybody could do better. It doesn't matter where you're at in life. There's always room to improve, I feel like. And I feel like you've done that a lot through growing up here in College Station for over, 10 years now?
10 years, going on 11 now.
10 years, going on 11 years in College Station. I've been out here 7 years with Freddy since he kidnapped me from the valley.
Sorry, Carl.
So now also talking about like your high school stories, living, did you have any ways to cut costs as far as As far as school, did you have any tricks? Y'all piggyback? College. In college, or any ramen stories?
I have a picture somewhere. I had great friends, man. Great friends, because there was times that they didn't know I didn't have money to eat.
That's crazy.
There was times where, and I feel like they knew, but they didn't say anything. But we always knew how we were with each other. Dude, there was times in the dorms where we would all come together. I have a picture somewhere where we would go and make pancakes.
Awesome, like, for everybody.
Yeah, like for us, our friends. And we started doing like these Sunday like get-togethers because we started realizing that, you know, as years went on, people kind of started doing things a little bit different, but that kind of brought us back together. And, you know, I always had great friends where like, I would go and they're like, hey, we're going to go out to eat. I would just go sometimes just to go. But then they're like, oh, you're not going to eat anything? And I was like, nah, I'm good. Like, I already ate. And they're like, nah, get something. I got you. And I would be like, I felt bad, but they didn't know they were helping me out. Mm-hmm. So anytime I got the opportunity to give back, I always do, because you never know somebody else's situation.
Definitely.
Even when they don't eat anything, it might be because they're not hungry.
And even when they don't show it, like you said, like people didn't know you came, like you didn't have money to eat, and they didn't know that. You didn't show it. I mean, you're always fun, energetic, and an outgoing person. So it's one of those where it's like you don't realize that person has that on his shoulders, and because of the way they look. But just because they look like that doesn't mean that they probably haven't eaten or they're going through a certain thing.
Yeah. And yes, I know I gained a lot of weight, but I wasn't eating good stuff. It was junk food.
I remember them chip bags, boy. I remember them chip bags.
That's my addiction stuff. Those big bags, like in one sitting.
Oh, yeah.
Hot Cheetos, Doritos, everything. Tacos, Doritos. I'm over here starting a song. And, but, you know, some of the tricks that I learned, everybody talks about like ramen, right? Like ramen. Shit, I was eating ramen when I was I grew up eating ramen, like elementary. I was like, this is like a freaking, this is dinner. Like, yeah, this is dinner to me. They're like, oh, I gotta make eggs. I grew up eating eggs. Like, oh, I only have beans and rice. That's a taco right there. Eggs, bean, and rice. Throw some potatoes in, man, I'm good.
I remember...
A lot of y'all don't know this, but when you go to college, sometimes you end up homeless for a couple of weeks and stuff like that. And in our house, I remember we had a couple friends stay with us. Yeah. Well, people I didn't know, but people Freddy associated with, and anybody who's a friend with Freddy's is a friend of ours. So everybody was invited to our houses, no matter what. And I remember they used to sleep on our floors, on our carpets, on our couches, because it happens. You don't know, but it happens out here. You have to move in from one place to another, and there's like a sweet month where you're homeless. And if you have a job out here, you have to find a way to live out here. And if you don't, well, you're pretty much on the streets or you don't have a job.
Because people don't realize, like, okay, if you're just moving from one house to another, sometimes they don't let you move in until it's that move-in period. And because it's more college-based in College Station, everybody's moving out July because school starts in August or September. So by the time your house or apartment, whatever it is ready, you're talking about 2-3 weeks into August, but you have to be out by July 31st. We had people that their leases were up when the school was up. So Gidley, Jonathan Gidley, great friend of mine, ours now, he
amazing guy too.
Yeah, great guy.
Tall too. Tall too.
Yeah, military.
Air Force or?
So he was in the Navy, and then I believe went to being a Marine. Yeah. Great business that he has now. Great people that he's involved with. Some of the same friends that we have. There was a time that he called me up and he basically told me, hey man, I'm going to be in College Station. Is there any way I can stay at your place? Because he was in the Corps of Cadets at A&M. And he wasn't doing summer school. He didn't have a place to stay. So we got all his stuff, we put it in the garage, and he stayed with us all summer. And, you know, he had a place to stay because, you know, my parents always taught me if you're going to a barbecue, if you're going anywhere, or if you're the one hosting it, always make more than what you need. Because, like, what's it called? Like, I don't know. I think I just got that from my parents. Like, always have an open hand. And one thing that a good friend of ours that taught us is Brandon. He basically said, you can't be greedy, you can't be selfish. And if you always have your hands closed, you can never go and grab the opportunities. So if you're always willing to give back, then every time you give back,
there's an opportunity you could grab.
There's an opportunity that's going to come to you that you can grab. But it's kind of weird, like, you know, when people don't get what I mean. Like, what I'm trying to say is, like,
it's a good mentality though. Like, I get what you mean. When you give stuff away, your hand's always open to receive if there's something to receive. Yeah.
Well said, right there. Yeah.
Appreciate it. I get what you mean.
And that's what I mean. We had some great friends that kind of instilled in us. We always had friends that were older. We always had friends that kind of shared.
Not even older, because I feel like some of them were either our age or maybe we met even some that were probably even younger than us, but the mindsets and their way they put themselves is where.
But I don't know if it's because of parents or mentors or people they had in their lives that instilled that in them, then they pass that on to friends, families, just now their kids, because they have kids. And it's great to see that. But Gidley stayed with us. I think Eric stayed with us one time because kind of the same thing.
Jordan slept on our couch a couple times. We need Jordan to come out here. I know he's a car salesman out in San Antonio for Cadillac, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we're watching you, man.
We watching. We keeping an eye on you.
And no, but that's kind of was always my thing. And then people are like, why do all these good things always happen to you? And I'm like, because you don't know about the other 100 bad things that have happened. You don't know about all the, not missed opportunities, but things that I couldn't do or things that fell through.
And not just that, but the opportunities you give other people too, I feel like. Because, I mean, we had to say was, no, you can't stay with us. And they're pretty much in their car, you know what I mean? Yeah. But we weren't those type of people. We're very humbling people. So we're always here if people need anything. But that's one thing I would suggest you guys to look at. If you are planning to go to college, make sure you have where your living stuff situated.
And
know where you're staying. Yes.
Well, if they're living on campus, but they want to be here for the summer because they're not going home. Because Gidley was from New York, Buffalo, New York. And he was staying here. So he's like, I have nowhere to stay. And but yeah, most people go back home. But if you have to put your stuff up, like that's if you're living in the dorms. So having to move everything, people think you could leave it there. And that changes because you might not be in that same dorm next year.
Any other people that helped you move out here? Anybody you moved out here with or friends that came with you from?
So big shout out to get on my friends to Marmolejo in high school. She pushed me so much because she
shout out to all the teachers out there real quick, especially the ones that make big impacts. And if you're questioning if you make a big impact out there, honestly, look at the students that surround you. If you feel like if students are actually trying to get to your knowledge, chances are you are making an impact. And if people are trying to stay away from you, chances are you don't really have a big impact. And Marmolejo, I could definitely say she had a lot of student body around her and that had her back. If they try to do anything with that teacher, the student body had her back for sure.
100%, yeah. And she was one of the ones that would always be like, hey man, like if you really want to get out of, the valley or where you're from, do it. Like there's nothing stopping you. And I'm like, but I'm illegal. And she's like, I know people that are illegal that are in college. You can do it. And she was able to help me talk to people that did it. And I was so scared because I'm like, what if I get deported?
So do you feel like Ms. Marmolejo was one of your first Kickstarter teachers then? Yeah. Or the Kickstarter teacher?
She was the main one. Like the main one that helped me get to where I was at. Of course, there's other teachers, but she was the main one. And before I left, there was a Freebirds that opened up in McAllen or Mission. And she called me, asked my parents if she could basically take me out to eat and for a surprise. And I'm like, what the heck was a surprise? And she's like, I want to be able to pay for things that you need in college, things that people don't think about. And I'm like, oh, a new MacBook. But so she took me out to eat to Freebirds, right? And she ended up buying my comforter, my bed set, my pillows.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Desk stuff that I needed, supplies, backpack. Like, dude, That's what I mean about having great people. Like, what teachers do that? You know what I mean? And if they do that, like, most people don't know that because they're not out, oh, I did this for this person. She was never that type of person. She would give back so much to her students. And I think to this day, she still does. And a lot of us, the next class that came after our class, a lot of us knew who Marmo was. You're talking about Gabriel, Anna, Ben, what's it called? The Rays, both Rays. They know how great she was. And Marmo knew I was Section 8. Marmo knew where I came from. I never saw it as I can't do it because I'm living where I'm at or I'm part of, poverty and things like that. Like, because to me, it was normal. Yeah. I had a good childhood. I was happy. But, having people that had your back, I didn't even think about that. I would have came to college and would have been like, oh, snap. I don't have a comforter. I don't have a bed. I don't have pillows. I don't have stuff for my desk, my backpack. Like, I don't have supplies.
And where we come from, chances are back home, I mean, you barely have enough while you're at home. Yeah. So it's one of those where it's like you're going to get to school and you just got to deal with it.
Yeah. And our counselor, man, Miss Gonzalez at the time, she basically asked me, what are you going to do for money? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I thought college is paid for. And they're like, no, like, not if you don't have scholarships. She and Marmo and a few other people basically said, you need to go apply for scholarships. Gonzalez brought me like 3 or 4 applications to go apply. And one of them was for a $500 scholarship. $500 doesn't seem like a lot, but that was a lot to me.
Especially back then, where we came from too, $500, hey, that's almost $1,000. That's almost $1,000. Honestly, that's the mindset we had.
Yeah, it was a lot. And she's like, just apply and see how it goes. And I ended up getting it. So we had like this award assembly for, I don't remember what it was. And
scholars, I believe, scholarships.
Yeah, for scholarships and things like that. And I kept going up there. And I didn't even know I had gotten it until that day. And so thank you. And that's what I mean. I got to thank people before I get to the friends.
No, definitely.
And my band director, man, Mr. Ayala, my trumpet director, Mr. Alame. I had a MacBook. Like, we had one laptop that we shared as a family.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we didn't have a computer, so I felt, I don't know, man. I felt so freaking great. Like, is this real? This is free money. But think about it. I had to do those essays. I had to put the work in. And we had a lot of help from Mr. Salazar and Avid. And he was always the one, like, I would ask him something. He's like, I don't know. What do you think? He would always answer my question with a question. I'm like, why does he do this? But it gets me thinking.
Gets you thinking more.
Yeah. And and when I got accepted to all these schools, he would post up the letters. And there was times we had to do a few essays or write stuff, and he would post it up. And I didn't know that a material that I had done, he was using it as an example years later. Oh, because my sister, we're 5 years apart. My sister and her friends, they knew who I was because of him, because of Marmo, because of the teachers, because of Miss Gonzalez, because of Mr. Cerda, like just a whole bunch of people that we had.
It's funny you say that because a lot of my nephews, because I'm the youngest of my siblings, but for nephews, it's the same thing. They're like, man, I hate you went to my school because now they look up to you and they compare a lot. But I came with Belle. Belle was a great friend at that time. Like, sorry, you're still a good friend. I was going to say bad friend. Nah, she's still a great friend. Belle, Kimberly, Aaron, Jaime, and me. I think it was 5 of us that came up here. I didn't even know Aaron came up, and I saw him, and I was like, you're coming to A&M? Like, I didn't even know you were coming up here.
Aaron, basketball Aaron?
Yeah, Salinas. And, we kind of, the good thing is I didn't have a car my freshman year because I lived on campus, and I didn't know if I could bring a car or not. So I always had rides to go back home. So people would see me on the weekends, And then they're like, dude, are you even going to college? You're here almost every other weekend. And I'm like, yeah. But because I got so many rides back, because a part of me still missed home. But if I had the opportunity to go to the Valley, I did. So when people are like, how do you make a 6.5 hour drive? Like,
weekend?
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm used to it. Like, till this day, I try to go back at least once a month to see like my parents. Amanda's also from the Valley. So we get to see both sides of the family. And
that's a good 6.5 hour trail.
Yeah, there and back. So think about it. We lose half a day on the road, but we're so used to it that it's kind of like, we can do this. And, some of us, it's funny because some of the friends that Aaron, Kimberly, Jaime, like they made on their own, and the friends I made, we all somehow still connected and we knew each other. And we were like, what the heck?
It's funny you say that because I moved up here totally way later than they did. And then way later with you and some of your friends that you bring up, I cut their hair over here too. And you're like, how do you even know them? I'm like, I ran into them.
We're like, hey, purple hair dude? I'm like, Neff? And they're like, yeah, I just got a haircut from him. And he said he knew you. I was like, how? Like, you're talking about like Jimmy, Eric, like people like just everybody. Crazy. And I'm like, but that's what makes you realize the world is actually smaller than you think, and a connection and networking is such a big deal because you never know who you're going to meet. And that's why I think us doing this podcast is great because, we're spreading the message out there. And sometimes when I'm here waiting to get my haircut, I see people waiting. They don't really say anything. But what if the answer you needed was right next to you?
Right next to you.
Like, right next to you.
And not just the answer, but maybe just personal feelings and stuff like that. Like relating. And that's one of the biggest things I feel like a lot of people could relate in so many ways. It's just that we lack communication and sharing the knowledge that we have and sharing our events and sharing our lifestyles. That's what creates the difference. You get me?
And it's that secret sauce.
Yeah, it's that secret sauce. But no, going back to the people that moved in with you, Jaime and everybody else.
Yeah, so all the people that came with us to college, we all kind of did our own thing, but we somehow all came back together. Like somehow we knew the same people. Somehow
different majors.
Different majors. Yeah. So the funny thing is Jaime, Bell, and I think we all wanted to be like an engineer or something, but we couldn't because I can't remember like what it was, but for me, I applied too late, so I didn't get into the engineering school. So it was kind of like general studies, and I was trying to figure out how to get in to be a mechanical engineer. But we ended up having some of the same classes. You're talking about a large university, some of the same classes at the exact same times with the exact same professors. Belle and I, we were in 2 different buildings, building our schedule, like literally building our schedule.
Ended up in the same class.
We had 1 class that wasn't the same. 1.
Wow.
Every other class, even I think we had to take like this lab math class because it was part of like a credit. Like if you needed help with math, it forces you to go into like, it's like tutoring, but it's called math lab. Same time. And I was like, man, you copy my schedule. No, you copy my schedule. And literally, but it was great because
study partners.
Yeah. No, but we had this, even the other people that didn't have the same classes, it was the same material, different times and stuff like that. And it was great because we all went through it together. Like, and the good thing was like, some of our friends got homesick, man. Like some almost left the first day they got here. And I'm so glad they stayed because I think that made a great trajectory in their lives because they took that risk in being here and it led them somewhere way far better.
And more opportunities too.
Yeah, because of the people you meet. But I don't know, all of us were really good at having each other's backs. All of us, if something went down, we all, hey, what do you need? And that's why I was like, it's great to have people that have your back, not that just say they're going to have your back. But if you ever needed to call somebody up at 3 a.m, I know you'd pick up. Okay. Me, I might take a while, but I'll pick up. I'll be like, hey, man, Mia's asleep. What's up? Hey, I need you to come get me.
That was funny. Or something. I always wake up for every little noise. So
I'd be there. But it's great to have friends, true friends, that you can call up and they'll be there for you. Like one friend, my best friend in the world, like Abraham, I hardly talk to him because we moved away. He's back in the valley.
Amazing guy too. We need to get him on the pod.
You need to come on the pod, man. Like you're doing big things, so you need to get up on here, Abraham. And so every time I go home, like even if he's busy or has to work or something, like I call him up, "What's up, dude?" Like it's like nothing changed. Nothing. And
except where he left off.
Yeah, like between us, you know. Mm-hmm. But I can see the change in people. Like when people stay the same and they're still doing the same things that they were doing when we graduated, those are the people that haven't really done much. But the people that are different, that are in different careers, that kind of struggle, that they're not living at home with their parents and taking advantage of it, and you can, yeah. They're the ones that are like, hey, man, you changed. Like, you're doing pretty good. But the people that are still at home with their parents that just are kind of, it sounds bad, but just taking advantage of their parents, mm-hmm. They're the ones like, man, you changed. You're not the same guy no more. Good. You know what I mean?
Like, you don't want to be the same.
You want to be the same. You want to be better. You want to be a better version of the person you were before.
Exactly.
So...
That's a good way to put it, because I feel like a lot of people back home, they get complacent to where they're at, and that's it. They're with their 9 to 5s and they're happy with it. And any haircut stories out here that you've gotten or that you've done on anybody? Any dorm cuts?
So remember how I showed right now that we had our backs?
Oh yeah.
Friends had our backs. Yeah, they had the back of my head. Yeah. So Danny, Joseph. I had friends that were legally, no, I'm kidding, cutting hair.
We didn't pay them, so I guess legally.
Yeah, I didn't pay them. So they were cutting hair in the dorms. And, they could do a fade. But this top part, they didn't know how to do scissors. They didn't know the style. Yes, I'm calling you guys out. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you wanted a low fade, high fade, mid fade, they did that. But when it came to fixing all this, I have a picture of a mullet, or big hair just flapping. And I would go home and they'd be like, hey, Nev, you think you can cut my hair? And you're like, again? He'd see didn't you just get a haircut? I'm like, yeah. Take my cap off. Oof. Bad haircuts, bad lighting. Yeah. One time, they made a little star on the side and got in trouble for it at work, so we had to shave it off. But yeah, just so many different stories. I think I've had the same haircut. It's kind of just changed a little bit from here. Kind of made it a little bit bigger because, when you get older, you get a little hair receding line.
It starts disappearing a little bit.
No kidding. But, I think just really bad hair. Sometimes my haircuts were uneven. You would see it right away, dude, let me fix it. I would go with other friends that were getting haircuts, and Nev started cutting, and he just kept looking at me. Dude, your fade's off. It's crooked. And I'm like, okay, fix it. Yeah. And then we had Manny when you sprayed the beard. Yeah.
Crazy Manny.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great. And then as far as work now, it's the flow's pretty good.
So
learning how to cope with stress and home and having a baby now that you're a new dad.
Yeah. So
how's that coping with being a dad and work balance?
Dude, the great thing is big shout out to my wife because she does a lot. She left work back over a year ago now, not this past November, but before that. And she's a stay-at-home mom. And people don't realize that's a 24/7 job. Like cooking, cleaning, taking care, feeding, there's a whole bunch that goes into it. So
surfing, change.
Dude, everything. So for those of you stay-at-home moms, wow. People don't realize how hard it is, the mental stress it does to you. And, but anytime I go home, the home is taken care of. We got food on the table. It's good. It's great.
That's
but
awesome,
sometimes I gotta realize how to shut work off, because when I'm in work mode, and sometimes I take that home, and instead of people know this, people in relationships, sometimes your girl just wants to talk. But as a man, you want to be like, okay, this is what you got to do, and this is what you got to fix. And they're like, I don't want you to tell me what to do. I just want you to hear me out. And I'm like, no, like, I want to tell you how to fix it. Like, if you're complaining about something, let's fix it. But no, they just want to talk. And I learned that very early on. Just let them talk. You know what I mean? Get off your phones, like, listen to them. Like, it goes a long way. But she does a lot, man. And sometimes, like I said, I'm in work mode, and I realize, like, that I'm still kind of in that mode because I'm still on the phone, or I'm trying to get something. Last minute emails, like, or I pop back on into the office I have at home, and I need to do something real quick. But then Mia goes to bed, my daughter goes to bed early, and it's like, if I do that, I miss out on being with her, because I get out of work at 5:30, not 5 o'clock. So it takes me 30 minutes to get home. So if I leave work at 6, I don't get there until 6:30. So then I have 30 minutes to have playtime, to see Mia, to be with her, because she goes to sleep at 7. We put her to bed. So it's kind of now trying to balance that. Like, okay, and the good thing is that she's young, but I don't want that to be the case forever. I want to be a great dad. I want to be a great husband. I want to be, a great person all around. And realizing that there are things you can fix, I think separates people from most. But you just got to take action. And from work, it's super stressful now. Like, I wake up sometimes like, okay, I got work. I go to sleep thinking about work. I think about work all the time. While I'm here, now that you're bringing it up, I'm thinking about stuff that's wrong with this building. Like,
things you got to go put in an order for.
Yeah, like, or remembering things, deadlines, just because when it comes to commercial real estate, it's like, oh, this tenant didn't pay rent. Like, no, like, sometimes you involve lawyers, like the attorneys, there's times where we've involved the police. You're dealing with tenants, vendors, owners, a little bit of everything. So being able to shut that off, I'm still kind of dealing with it, but I kind of force myself now. But the stress, I think just being able to get away is what helps me. Being able to shut it is what I need to do.
And the great thing for you, I mean, you would have Saturdays and Sundays off, so those were your time for the family and for friends and stuff like that. And I mean, it's awesome, and like, it's how you said, you have to find that good balance. Yeah. And I feel like that's a hard thing for people to find. It's the balance, but it's very important for you to start working on it, because the faster you work on it, the faster you adapt to it, and the faster you evolve to it. And I feel like a lot of people, they take their time to start that process, and by the time you know it, you're just caught up in your ways, and it's a lot harder to break that habit. You know what I mean?
A lot harder.
It's a lot harder to break the habit. Another thing is coming in the position you're at. I'm sure if people are used to you emailing them at after hours, I'm sure they're going to expect that later on. So I'm sure that's one of the things you've probably had to learn. Like, no, I have to cut that off, and I'm cutting it off. You know what I mean?
Stop that early.
It's very good that you see that, and that's good advice that you have, especially communication with your spouse, because I feel like that's a very important thing now. Because I feel like a lot of days nowadays, you have a lot of people that have just baby daddies and not really families. You know what I mean? And it sucks to say that, but that's honestly how the economy and the world's changed. It's like, oh, have you seen my baby daddy? Or this is my baby daddy or baby mama. Yeah. And it's not like, oh, look, my mom and my dad. It's very rare you hear that now, which I feel like that's kind of sad. But I mean, it is what everything's evolving to, I believe.
Yeah. That's what I mean about having great friends, great people.
And opening up to other people as well. That way they could see the struggles and the mindset that you have. Yeah. And it's kind of like that saying, like, the people you surround yourself with is what you become, pretty much.
Yeah,
so
5 people you surround yourself.
So if you expect to get to a higher person or a higher being of you, surround yourself with people that push you to the next level, instead of people that are complacent with being in the same area, or just willing just to see you every now and then. You know what I mean? Because it makes a big difference from a friend that checks up on you, and there's a big difference from a friend that's just someone on the side. You know what I mean? And I think it's very important, if you have a friend that checks up on you, keep those friends close, because they're very rare. And if you do have those friends, tell them thanks, because you just never know when you might need a friend like that. And like he says, life hits you at all times. You never know when it hits you. And it's good to have a friend on speed dial to have a conversation with when you hit those times, because if you don't, it's very hard to cope with it on your own. And sometimes you don't want to really talk to it with your spouse because you feel like you're going to put them under more pressure if you feel like, we'd like to thank everybody for joining us today on our first episode of Neffit. I'd like to thank my co-host, Freddy. He's going to be here from now on, and he'll be finishing up this podcast with his closing thoughts, and appreciate him for being here. Take it off, Freddy.
Something that I kind of want to say to everybody watching, and if you're just tuning in, you're just now seeing this video, it's you have the capability of changing whatever you need to change in your life to make it better. You can do whatever it is you set your mind to. And, one of the quotes that I really like is you must be the change you wish to see in the world. That's by Gandhi. And all it really does, it takes one person. I learned early on that you have to have a lot of money to make a change in the world, or you have to have a large following, a group of people to be able to make a change. Gandhi didn't have a lot of money, but he was able to make an impact. And, I want to leave a legacy behind. I want to leave something, a blueprint of mine here for future generations. And I feel like this podcast is part of it, because you know what they say, what stays on the internet lives on the internet. And one of the things that I would like to say to myself in the future is all the grind, all the late nights that you thought about, the times that you thought you were going to go broke, it was worth it. You got there for a reason. You did what others weren't willing to do. And in this case, thank yourself. Don't just thank everybody that helped you get there, because you're the one that put the work in, and you're the one that decided to go and do what the 99% of people weren't going to do. So congratulate yourself. Take pride in what you've done, even if it's been the best thing or the worst thing. Even of all those mistakes, all those excuses that you might have had, it was all worth it. And to Mia, to Amanda, to future kids, if you guys are watching this, future grandkids, that's how far I want to take it. I did this for y'all. I did this for every person that's watching. I did this for my family. Russ has that song, family, friends. That's all I'm about. And everybody that was willing to help me in one way, shape, or form, thank you. And I promise, and I mean this, in some way, shape, or form, I will return that favor. So once again, thank you.
Family, friends.